Okay, hi everyone. We are now on the last talk in room 3 and still with me Nita again as your moderator. Now we have Aman Sharma as our speaker. Hey Aman.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm doing great. Actually, I was a little bit messed up right now, so I quickly jumped on and brought my camera, brought my headphones. That's just why you can see a little bit of my breathing going in and out.
Okay, I will read your short profile first, okay?
Sure.
Aman is a co-founder and CTO at twinbit.com and community lead at mobile-web.dev, speaks and writes on IMP, PWA, web, cloud, ML, and AI, WordPress, focusing on creating awesome product experience for web and mobile. Wow, it's great, Aman. Okay,
Thank you.
and in this session, Aman will deliver talk about no more tears from project nightmares. Okay, sometimes we feel tired and want to cry, like when we are working on a project that's like a nightmare for us. Okay, Aman, you can start your presentation now.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Anita, for that introduction. And it's you might be already wondering what this talk actually contains, which is having emoji in its name, which is named as "No More Tears from Project Nightmares." But what I didn't mention in the title was that it has a lot of memes. So, uh, it's like the last time thing that I wanted to make it entertaining. By the way, this is the second time I'm doing this talk. The first time I did in PyCon India, and they really liked it, and that's why I thought, yeah, it's really helpful. I did a little bit of improvisation on the style, and here we are for the next time. So what this talk whom this talk actually is for, whom we are addressing over here. So if you are the person who wants to complete your project on time but never do, this talk is for you. If your incomplete projects haunt you in nights and you are moving towards new projects like crazy, so this talk is for you. If you want your code to survive in the next sprint, which usually we don't think when we are creating, the stock is for you. So we have a whole, what do you say, Pandora box of all these things that contains the best practices, techniques, tools in order to make sure that you deliver your projects at time. I'm sorry, the PyCon India logo still is there. So, a little bit about me. Neeta already told you what I do. I am a co-founder and CTO at Twimbit. Twimbit is a research organization where we use a lot of tools and technologies to overcome challenges with modern research. Also, I'm a lead at Mobile Web Dev, which is a community for open source mobile web technologies. And I'm a member at deeplearning.ai and open source initiative. So it's kind of a mixed check into different kind of technologies field, and I would call myself a generalist, not a master into one technology. But I really like solving problems which involves a lot of human customer experience and creating awesome product experience for these people. So my whole life has been just around how I can make technology a little bit more easier for developers also and for consumer also. And this is the talk that we are going to talk about. Three things that will be of key importance, which are the three C's of project development. That is consistency, efficiency, and expectancy would be the more like the most centric things in the whole talk. So whatever I say, you need to remember that it should be consistent, it should be efficient, and it should be expected. Like whenever you run in the next time, it should be expected. And all these tools and techniques that we'll talk about today will be based on this thing only. So what's our talk agenda going to look like? First of all, we'll see what's going wrong, like why actually we need this talk in the first place. Then how you should plan your project, which comes from the way that how you should solve this problem of no more tears. then how you should set your environment, and how you should optimize your whole project, and then how you should finally deliver. And then we'll do a small quick recap if some of you might get lost in the meme world, or maybe in daydreaming about how I should do the next project. Okay, so let's start with the first thing. What's actually going wrong? So this is a small timeline that I thought would be very helpful in defining how an average looking project story look like. So you start a project and you expect as the time increases, your anxiety should go down. So this is the expected line of anxiety, shame, fear, which should go down. But in actual, things doesn't go at plan. You start, you know what are the requirements when it should be started, and as soon as your project starts and the time elapses, your anxiety, shame, and fear keeps on growing. And you are kind of a procrastinator kind of person who doesn't want to do things in the right schedule, but like me, who wants to do things on the last deadline. So it's okay, you're just going with it. And soon you realize that this is the point when you should actually start your project. When you do that, it's all crisis, because it's you have a mixed dilemma of anxiety, shame, fear going up and down. You don't know if you will be able to complete the project at time or not. And then this is the hell zone that we define, the hell zone of project development, any kind of project that you're working on, primarily because that you have wasted a lot of time before, and now you don't know whether you should be able to complete the project on time and with actual deliverables. After that, the things get pretty easier, but you have already wasted a lot of time, energy, and anxiety for the project in the hell zone. So this is the hell zone that what is creating problem in chaos and causing tears in your project development. And this is the main part that we'll be focusing on in this talk. One thing we should always remember, that I am really inspired by David Heinemeier, who is the founder of Basecamp and also the creator of Ruby on Rails, that he says to create half product, not half-as product. Usually founders or developers have excitement of adding more and more features, but due to this, we forget to actually improvise human experience on a product. So throughout the whole journey, my first agenda is to create half products, are totally fine, but don't create half-as products. Okay. So let's start with the first problem that we have, that is poor planning. And poor planning is mainly due to, you know, mismanagement of time, not clear deliverables, which we'll be talking throughout this part of the talk. But it's actually a crisis management on the go. As you can see in this small meme in which this guy is trying to fix the track as the train is moving. This is actually a crisis management. As soon as you are into the final push of the project, you get so many errors and you are just trying to fix them at a time. Also, another problem that causes derailment of project is thought clarity. Project fails because different people have different perception of what project needs to be delivered. So this is something like this memes where everybody has a different idea, like how the customer explained, how the leader understood, and at the end, what actually it should be, which is I don't know. Um, this is what actually the customer needed, and everybody in the team has a different perception of the idea, mainly because lack of communication, not enough tools and implementation, not a good planning, not a good discussion. Also, many people think that tools are mainly used by fools, and in which some people don't know about them, like what tools we should use, and other people see that it's really overwhelming to use these tools and just skip off and start with the project. And this ultimately leads to wastage of time, and maybe this poor fellow, I don't know what he'll be going through after this saw hits the back point. And also another problem that people think about when creating project is premature optimization, when they are thinking too far, or they are thinking a lot about scalability, and they define the project scope to be overwhelming when they want the project to be used by 10 million people, or you know, a lot of latency thing these people are counting. But it actually doesn't matter in the starting of the project, right? And you define the scope of project so high that everybody gets overwhelmed with these scopes and things doesn't go at plan. At the same time, some people don't think about optimization at all. They think the project deployment is going to be same like a college assignment, and we shouldn't think about testing and all these things. And things don't work. If it doesn't works, don't touch it. If it works, don't touch it. This is a common criteria for developers, including me. This leads to not running things constantly. Sometimes it runs, sometimes it doesn't. So with some variable it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Also, there is no rigorous testing involved in these kind of philosophies, which leads to no optimization. And everybody doesn't include the unfavored production environment that people usually face during the actual production. Your local host looks like a different configuration, and when it goes to the actual server, uh, the production unit, it has a different kind of arrangement, and things doesn't go on plan. So this all leads to a very bad scenario in the project. Now we are going towards the solution for this problem. And the first thing that involves to make sure the project goes smoothly is doing the right planning. And that's what planning a project actually means. So what we actually want you to think about project planning is not like you are a big deal in NASA, or what your dad thinks you are actually doing in project planning, or what your client do is like a magical way of getting things out of the hat and just increasing the requirements all the time. And what you are actually doing, and what it's actually going on, right? So this is not the actual project planning that we are thinking of. The first thing, the most important thing in project planning is talking in diagrams. This is a very good phenomenon. Many good project managers and product developers actually take this under consideration, because diagram is the holy soul grail of talking about a project. If your team always create a diagram of a project, 90% of issues automatically get resolved, because whatever somebody is thinking in his mind, it's already on the paper. And this reduces to a lot of misunderstanding, miscommunication being cleared right away. So what are the benefits? It's bring clarity. It confirms that everybody is on the same page. Nobody is thinking, okay, we have to create this module or this module. It also avoids possible rundowns due to a new technology that you didn't thought will be coming in the starting, or a server requirement which was not planned before. And it also helps in planning resources. So that's what are the benefits of diagrams. I use diagrams.net a lot. It's a free tool. You can use it to create flowcharts, diagram, UMLs. You don't need to be a professional project manager. You just need to know what are the different main stakeholding things in your project, and you can just create diagrams and talk in diagrams. But at the same time, you should also remember how much diagrams or planning you should do. It should be enough to get everyone around. You are not going to create Great Wall of China, but at least to make sure that everybody understand the project scope completely. So that's what you are trying to do. It should be made with collaboration. Only the team leader or the main in charge of the project is not responsible for it. The main idea of creating a diagram is to bring thought clarity, and thought clarity can be brought together when everybody is making the diagram together. So hold on a meeting in the starting of the project for 20-30 minutes, and just make sure that everybody is contributing to creation of these diagrams. It should be regularly talked about. You should plan regular meetings, and you should bring upon this diagram that you just created again and again, so that it helps everybody just remember like what we are actually working on. Just like how you are going to a destination and you check Google Maps again and again, this is the exact thing that we are going to do with diagrams. Details are not necessarily, you don't need to define what the output or the input looks like, how much latency you want. Those details are not important in the first diagram iteration. It just should have necessary details. And possibly you should do a dry simulation of these steps. Like imagine if you are the role player of this particular unit, how you will be moving across the diagram at the end of the project. That really helps in kind of predicting what things are important and what things are not. And then, of course, if you are a team of Marine, you know how to do this well. But if you are not, practice it again and again, and you will be good to go. Now, let's come to how you should do a planning, or how you should do create a diagram. So first thing is explore example projects. That's the easiest way. I usually do it all the time. Usually companies like Facebook, Instagram, or big companies always have run through the same problem that you are trying to solve. And it shouldn't be your main objective to reinvent the wheel, but actually try to use the practices that other developers have used in the past. Learn from their mistakes, don't repeat those mistakes. So you can just copy the whole framework in some way, whatever matches your expectation, and start with that. It helps you not going through the same project problems that these companies have already faced. So explore by start by exploring example projects. Then on a plain paper, or if you're doing on diagrams.net, firstly lay over the most important elements of the project that you think. If it involves a login page, add a login page first. If it involves something like a web scraper, add a web scraper. So all the important elements that you think might help in creation of project should be added on the first go. Then start specifying input and output. These are the interaction between these important elements of project that we just added. So input output includes from where input will be coming and from where the output should go. And these kind of connected pipeline also helps you imagine where you would need a middleware. Usually in the project management, we define middleware as the interconnecting element between two different modules or some modules of the project. Then lay down your tools, what kind of external APIs you would need, what kind of testing unit you would need, because you have added all the layers and everything. And start adding connections, that how these things are getting connected. Now, once you have created a diagram, the next thing is to allocate equal opportunity to your team according to their capabilities or their interest. So these are a couple of do's and don'ts that you should do. First of all, always talk regularly with the team. Don't leave it to them. Some people like to work in silos alone. That's totally fine. But at least a weekly meeting just to get everybody's head around what's the updates going like really helps in avoiding any possible rundowns. So talk regularly, talk clearly. You should definitely encourage every member of your team to ask every stupid question that they have in their brain. Usually these stupid questions are the reason that we create different projects. So always talk clearly, ask stupid questions yourself. First of all, for example, I don't know what the input looks like. This JSON structure, does it needs to have a list or a nested object? This stupid question helps other people also get encouragement and ask those stupid questions. And usually you would see that these questions nobody thought of but actually mattered a lot in the project. Connect efficiently. What connect efficiently means is that only the people who wants to talk in a project should connect. According to Elon Musk, he says that if you are not an humble part of the meeting, it's really okay to leave the meeting right away. So that's the way how connecting efficiently works. You should not give inputs that you really don't know what you're talking about, but you should definitely ask questions and help in thinking out the whole solution. Think in your mind first and then come up with the answer. Share responsibilities. It's not the only the team members or the team leaders responsibility to cheer the team. Everybody should play an important and equal role in sharing the responsibility and taking initiative, that I would like to do it because I love it, and then I won't like to do it because I think I'm not too much confident with it. Then couple of don'ts that you should also follow while teaming up. First of all, hold long meetings. Holding long meetings is a poison in the whole project management. Really, the nasty words that you are using these days called as brainstorming are really a project killer. Trust me. Brainstorming doesn't help in anything. It's just a fashionable term you read in books or in movies, but it really doesn't help a lot. And your meeting should be not more than 20 to 25 minutes. Everybody should have the agenda in their hand already, and they should just talk about okay what they already planned to talk in the meeting. Just do a meeting first of all and come up with what problems you are going to face, and plan another meeting in which they will have enough time to think through the solution and come back again. Don't do brainstorming or things like that. Don't add unnecessarily people who don't have a lot of role to play in the project. Also, don't duplicate roles. It's always efficient for a single person to think through one problem, and then even if he's doing right or wrong, he can easily diverge or change his opinion about something. But giving duplicate roles for the same problem really makes chaotic situation in which none of them will be happy in actually doing the project. So, and also most important, as a project leader, you should make sure that the motivation level and the motivation energy of the whole team remains constant, not like your college team who is very excited in the first hour of the project, but after hours everything goes away and you actually realize, this is a great problem. Now, another thing that you should plan on is predicting resources. Prediction of resources help in avoiding possible delays. And what resources we are talking about is human resources. First of all, is time. How much time do you think the whole problem is going to take. Doesn't importantly means that you calculate each even single hour and day, but you should have a plan to give to your superiors or your coworkers or to the external world that how much time do you think the whole problem is going to take, and always try to deliver at time. It's okay to leave some part of the project for a later sprint, but always keep project on time. It remains keeps the consistency, creates a loyal team. Always have a time foundation, means your team respects the whole idea about delivering things in the company. Also calculate the effort. Now, the time is the overall time that a whole project sprint takes, but effort is accounting each developer's daily hours or weekly hours that he's going to dedicate for the whole project. This thing helps avoiding any possible blockage if they are working on different modules or two projects at the same time, then how much effort they can actually give to the project. Also, have a rough idea about what kind of servers, machine, or hardware you would be using. Don't leave it to the last part to the DevOps team or the person who is deploying it on the server to just figure out what server you need. Usually, it's okay, like most of the requirements meet as your local machine, but sometimes it doesn't. If, for example, if you're using Windows and the actual machine is using AWS Linux, you are not clear with what kind of requirement it matches, and you will run into a lot of problems. Also try to come up with what kind of skills the whole team would need in order to complete this project, because you have earlier created a diagrams which have all the resources and different scripts that you will be adding. This helps in kind of creating a checklist of skills so that your team can already start revising the basics, going through different videos and reading a lot of blog articles so that they have efficient ways of completing the project. Now let's come to the next point, is that how you should set up sprints deliverable milestone. Now this is not a project management 101 where I will tell you exactly how sprints are done, but usually these are different tools and technologies that you can use in order to manage the whole process. The tools that I usually use is GitHub issues. If it's a running project, you can create milestones and add multiple GitHub issues to it. You can also use Kanban tools like Trello, Monday.com, or Jira if you like that. You can use any of these tools. Most of them work on the same principle of moving cards from doing to done, or gonna do to doing, these kind of steps, but it really helps everybody see how things are going to happen. Also, Git Kraken timelines. I recently discovered it. It's very good to create different timelines and milestones for the project. It's totally free tool. You should definitely try it out. What not to do during a sprint deliverables or milestone is adding too much details. Don't add a lot of specification about the whole sprint that you are going to do. Also, don't keep long sprint. Usually the sprint looks like 2 or 3 weeks. A sprint that is longer than 2 or 3 weeks totally means that it's going to have at least 3 to 4 days of delay. The shorter the sprint, the more chances of it completing on time. Then don't add large number of deliverables. Split your deliverables into two parts. If it's a lot of deployment, then deliver the first sprint. After it's done, then go to the second sprint. Also, don't include half features which are going to be added in the first sprint and half of them are going to be added in the second sprint, because adding half features means that you are not sure about these things and you're gonna rework on these things when you are going to the next sprint. If it's not you're not able to deliver it at time, just remove it from the first sprint and just add it to the second one. And don't add on the fly changes. This is for especially for clients or project leaders that think, okay, this might be cool to add into the project. Always keep a priority list with you. If the priority for that feature is added to the sprint, then do it. Otherwise, when the sprint start, don't add any more changes, because this really pisses off the developers working on it, and also doesn't make sure that the project will complete on time. So, and also don't be like Mr. Tim, who thought you can complete the whole project in an hour, but actually you can't, and it would be very shameful for the team and the whole company. Now let's go to the second part, that is setting up the best environment. In my opinion, always, a healthy environment leads to a healthy project. So that's the point that we are going to talk about over here. First of all, team communications. That includes having a predefined meeting calendar. Don't kind of organize on the spot meeting. Always have a meeting calendar if you're going to have a discussion quarterly or weekly or maybe even daily. So have a meeting calendar, add everybody to the invitation list so that they don't kind of include themselves in any other chore, and then come back into meetings and have predefined set agendas. I think that's what other points are. So always make notes. If you are assigned something, something, always make notes and stick it to the meeting calendar so that nobody has any confusion. Sometimes people are going through different kind of mindset and they don't know what they're talking about, so that they can always come back to these meetings notes and they can see what was actually going on. And also keep a dedicated communication channel. If you love Slack, very good. If you love Teams, very good. Even if you love WhatsApp, that's even fine, but always keep a single communication channel and don't distribute the whole communication into different threads. Like, for example, some of those things will go on email, some of them will go on Slack, and some of them on WhatsApp. It really creates chaos. Always keep a single communication channel. And also, you know, when you don't have any communication issues, you don't run into a World War II, right? Then next is a Git ritual. You might already know about GitHub and you will be doing perfect job in getting it up. But getting it up is a new kind of ritual that many developers are following, and I wanted to bring this up in this discussion. So the first thing that you should do is, before starting the day on your job, before starting the whole project, you should always do a Git pull. It helps you see what other things other people have done and avoid possible merge conflicts when you are going to push it in the last moment. Then commit after every significant change. Make it a rule that what significant change makes means to you. Is this significant change is something when you touch a new file, or you write 500 lines of code, or maybe even 10 lines of code, or it is something like whenever you go before the lunch, that is the significant change for you. So always dignify what the significant change looks like and commit even locally. That's totally fine. And after you are going to exit your IDE or going to end your shift, always push whatever changes you did for that day so that everybody knows that. Just follow it. It really helps. And it might sound like a good solution to use this git push force command, but to solve problems, but it actually doesn't. That's a secret. Next, this is a place that I'm really missing. This is my desk where I actually work, and this is not the desk I actually work on. So, what you can see, key things that I have added in order to have a productive space is have a nice ambient place to work, not my like present one where I have cold feet and everything is messed up around me. Because a clean environment makes sure that your code is also clean, right? Then have something like a dual display, not an important thing. I use triple display sometimes, but dual display help you debug the things and see them at the same time. Focus on the ergonomics. A backache is really trouble in a project. Then have a good seat, good chair which have a good lumbar support, and have your feet, all the ergonomics. You guys know better about this thing. Always keep following this trick. And don't keep it messy. Yeah, I don't have anything messy in this diagram at least. These are some apps, tools, and IDEs that I prefer to use. And if you didn't know about some things, it's good. Otherwise, you guys might be already using them. Apps like Trello, Slack, Diagrams.net, all of them are free. Good apps to manage and keep track of the whole project. Tools such as this actually is not Ubuntu. I recently discovered that Windows users can run a Linux console directly in a CLI environment using something called as Ubuntu WSL2. So if you are using Windows and you still want to work on Python projects, because Linux is the most optimized running environment for Python projects, so what you can do is install WSL2, which is Linux subsystem in your Windows machine, and then run all the Python projects in Linux while still using Windows. Then Flask is a good way to use it. Then this is actually Termius. I recently discovered this is a very good CLI tool in order to connect with your server. So everybody in the team should know how to use a server CLI. GitHub, Jupyter Notebooks, and GitHub Actions to run automations. Then IDs you can use anyone. PyCharm and VS Code, both of them are free. Now we are almost at the last step of the whole project management journey, and your tears are almost dry. So now we are talking about optimizing your project. So this is the way how you should organize the project. Most of the people just write a lot of code in the single Python file, or just doesn't have a structure. So just to make everything clear, everybody in the team should create a whole nomenclature of how you would create a project organization. And this is mostly the ideal one that I read from different books and then created one on my own. So the first thing is the folder way, which means that every module in your Python project should be consistent in a folder. Even if it includes one Python file, it's totally okay. Then Don't include too much code in the main script. Usually what people do is they have main.py or application.py and they keep adding new code, and at the last step of project deployment they start kind of optimizing or defragmenting the code from the main file to other files, and this is not a good way to do it. If you kind of have a rule in your team that you would not add more than, let's say, 15 lines of code in the main or the main script file, you would really see a huge result in the whole project getting organized automatically. Everything should be in a function. Don't leave open codes, and I think this is really stupid thing, but people still are following this, and everything should be enclosed in functions. Naming files and functions should be done in a very proper manner, which should be very easy to explain. I have seen many developers kind of using very good functional names for the whole files or the Python functions that they are using, which really indicates how you should include it. Your IDE will also love you adding very good functions name, so that when you are auto typing, when it suggests a function, you don't need to go and check what the input and output looks like. And the last is always formats comments logs in a better way. You should definitely, if you haven't, you should definitely check out the guides on how you should do commenting and how you should add logs and what format you should keep. And if you follow all these things, then the Python snake won't bite you, right? Like the indentation block issue. Python is good in that thing, like everything is auto intended, but it would also make your life worse if you don't do it right. Now requirements are required. I don't know if you know this thing or not. Many developers in a Python survey were found they don't use a good requirement or txt file at all. Usually the reason is that as soon as you find a solution on Stack Overflow which includes a new Python requirements to be installed, you just install the Python requirement right away, but don't include the name of that Python dependency in the requirement or txt file. So to fix this issue, I really find that this is a good submodule known as piprex, which what it does, it goes through your whole Python project line by line and creates a requirement.txt for you. This is different than usually people use I don't pip freeze. Pip freeze is also a dependency manager that kind of adds all these requirements that your system has into a requirement.txt, but that's not a good way to do it. Piprex helps you just to add the requirements that your project contains. And then also always, even when you are working locally, always use virtual environment, because if you want to test something how it's going to work in a service environment, you can just create a new virtual environment, install the piprex requirements, and then you can see if everything is working right or wrong. And this is a new way of dealing with how modern problems require modern solution. I won't bore you much with the memes. These are almost the last ones. And now we are on the final day. If everything was going fine, you did all these things right, you should not be having tears. You should have tears of joy. And this is the final delivery day, which is everything is bringing it on. And you might already know this, but there are three ways of delivering a project. The simplest one, not involving a lot of mess, is FTP or SSH. Here you can see a screenshot of Termius. It has a free tier also, a very good CLI, remote CLI tool for SSH and FTP. So uh, this is one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is CI/CD. If you have a lot of people working on a project and lot of deliverables, for example, adding a new feature every week, then I would recommend you to move from a normal FTP SSH way to CI/CD way, where GitHub Actions all automatically compiles up the code and delivers it into the server side. I would really requires a whole session on how to set up a CI/CD for Python. And trust me, it's only the first time that you will find it difficult. All the script example codes are already available just to deploy your Python code on the server. So try it out. It would take not more than half an hour or 1 hour. And you would really say this is truly amazing how automatically when you push the code, it automatically deploys on the server. And the last way is to container. This is mostly for people who are building project on scales and want their project to work consistently in every condition and scenario. And learning Docker, not just for deployment but just to have yourself tied up with the latest technologies, is really helpful, and every team member should do it. Now this is the D-Day plan. What a D-Day plan is that we will go from T minus day seconds, and then we'll move towards the final delivery day. This is a backward orchestration of how you should do everything step by step. So this is basically to avoid any kind of mishaps when you are trying to showcase the code to the boss and then things don't work as planned. This is actually things to avoid it. So the first thing that you should do is create a checklist at day minus 10. What this means, whatever is remaining, just create a checklist for it. Even though you think that it would take only 5 minutes, add it to the checklist. Then run this checklist every 3 days. So basically, until day minus 0, you would have 3 checks for this checklist. And during every run, you will add more points to the checklist or cut off the things that you have already done. Then at day minus 3, create another checklist, which should be a totally fresh checklist, just containing all these last steps that you want to do with your project. And work one thing at a time in this checklist. Divide each point in the checklist to individual team members and ask them to complete them by day minus 1. Test it out very well and then hand over. So don't be this guy who wants to play dangerously and test everything out, like ship everything out without doing customer testing. It's like living dangerously, but is not recommended. So to quickly recap what we did in the whole thing, the first thing is less. Always keep small deliverables, always keep small timelines, keep a small team, small meetings, short in everything. Simple, less is simple, simple is everything. That kind of theory that you should remember. Then this is actually keep less deliverables but measurable. The next thing is KISS, not that KISS. It actually stands for keep it simple, stupid. Keep a thought clarity in your diagrams in the whole project requirement.txt, in the main Python script.txt. It should be simple for everyone so that even a layman comes, he can get a clue about what's going on. And trust me, your team will love how simple things really does do better job than complex. And the last is don't miss. Whatever happens, even if your project is like half done, always deliver your project on time. This will create a good, what you say, reputation of the whole team in considering and respecting the timelines in the time windows and the time scopes, whatever you want to call them. But delivering time on time really helps you a lot. And that's all I could create in the small period of time. Obviously, I would need to go through my decks also 2 or 3 times to make sure I don't cry at time. So that's me, Aman Sharma. Thanks for
Thank,
attending this.
okay, thank you, Aman, for your presentation. We have several questions. Maybe you can answer it now before uh, finish your session.
Yeah, I think let's take a couple of them. We have some time.
Okay, from Adip, most of the time, in my experience, information from daily meeting is retrieved by individual spoken information. Doesn't it more effective if it's written instead?
Thank you, Adib, for that question. And actually, you are completely right. It should be not all conversation all the time, but I have found that it should be mixed. You should create a agenda for all these things that you should talk about. And if somebody thinks that that's not an important time, you don't need to talk about it at all. What sometimes happens is that usually people have assumption when you write, and speaking something clearly with the team really brings out the clarity about some misunderstanding that you might be having. So the actual way of doing a meeting is to write down the agenda of what you are going to discuss in the meeting. And the meeting should be only confined to the agenda. If somebody is adding a new point, ask them, don't do it over here, bro. Let's talk in another meeting about it. But always keep an agenda from the starting and then do a meeting. So it's actually combination of both is a better thing.
Okay, next question from Danny. What do you suggest to do when your team burn out in the middle of the project?
Excellent question. So, a couple of things that I myself imagine doing to avoid possible burnouts is first of all keep small sprints and small deliverables. So, what this means that after every sprint, if a sprint is like a week or 2 weeks long, run through a small, kind of a break, go for a coffee party or go for a house party or something like that. This is a pandemic situation, so you can actually do a remote gaming session or something. And if you keep small deliverable, what this does is it gives a sense of achievement when a person is achieving it. So if the project is not too long and you have small deliverables, it actually helps people to get back on track much easily. So this is the one thing to do it. Second thing, as a team leader, you should always not just think about delivering the project, but also keep take care of everybody is learning or growing or not. It is found that the companies that focus on individual learning of the employees have 30% less stressed employees as compared to the other companies. So this is some possible ways to avoid burnouts.
Okay, maybe it's enough, Aman. Participants can contact you after this ini, LinkedIn and Twitter, Medium, and
Yeah,
your web.
LinkedIn and Twitter are like
Is it right?
awesome ways to connect. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Aman. But before we end your talks, maybe you want to say something to participants?
Sure. I think this is first time I'm interacting in a talk that is in Asia Pacific. No, I did a talk. I think in the starting of this year for Singapore, POS Asia Singapore, and it's an honor to present this talk to all of you guys. Some of you might be working in companies. Some of you might be working in school. You're just learning, and just keep growing, keep learning, keep stronghold in this pandemic time. You have done an amazing job. Instead of watching Netflix, you came here to watch a session, learn something new. That means you are a little bit different than other part of the people who are just playing games or watching Netflix right now. So congratulations on that. Thanks for attending my talk. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach me out at whatever place you would like from the screen.
Okay, we have late question, another late question. I will not write it, but I will read it for you. Okay, from
Okay.
Salim. Do you think achievement feeling? Okay, do you think achievement feeling really that matter to still motivate?
So sorry, I didn't got the second word. Can you repeat the question?
Wait, maybe it's because
Yeah, this is the
connection.
last one.
Wait, no. I will put a question. Wait for minute. Think. Okay. Do you
Okay,
think
I think I got it.
achievement feeling that matter to still motivate?
Awesome. Yeah, I think if you I don't know if you have read this book from Dale Carnegie or not, which is How to Influence People and Win Friends. How to win friends and influence people. It really talks about that one of the basic need for everybody to live a happy life is respect and sense of achievement. Trust me, if you don't have sense of achievement in your life, if you don't think that you are going somewhere, you would really feel demotivated. And the smaller achievements, the smaller in the smaller time you are getting achievements, it ensures that everybody really stay motivated. Just for example, how you have small tests, small assignments in your classroom, which helps you make sure that you perform good in grades. Imagine what would happen if you only had one exam in the whole year. That means that you won't have many chances to improve and many chances to celebrate. If it ends up, it ends up. So that's why all the system, everything is designed to keep you motivated. And when you go into a team project or create a project, you should always make sure that you have uh, you know ways to deliver this sense of achievement to people. And this is done using small sprints, having small deliverables, having small milestones to make sure that everybody feels that okay, they are winning something every day.
Okay. That's the last question. So we can end your now.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much everyone.
Aman,
Thank
for
you,
your
Nita.
sharing to us. Yeah, thank you, Aman. It's so interesting topics.
Sure. Thanks for having me.